Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Premier Pundits podcast. Of course, it's a Thursday, and it is another special edition. The FanTeam Monster €75,000 big cash prize pool heading into game week 25. And of course, I'm joined by my esteemed co-host. He's not just the stat man; he is the money man. Jason McKenna, tell us all about your massive win last weekend.
It was so exciting watching the football last weekend. And you know what was even better? It was the fact that these were kind of boring draws or boring kind of defensive stop-outs. And I was like, yes, nice to see. Like when Target got the clean sheet against Brighton. I mean, it wasn't a great performance from Villa, but coming in with 6 points for me, huge stuff. So yeah, last week, 80.5 points. Finished up in 200 and something position. So I was coming in with a lovely bag of money. So, move out the way, Floyd Mayweather. This is the real money maker, the real money man. And yeah, it was great fun. As we've kind of said with other FPL things, it's better because like now the team's reset and I can build towards next week. I'm not worrying, all right, I've just built for that game week and I'm going to be punished. No, I've now got a great team to move forward next week, which is what we're going to talk about. But I do have to mention the man himself that really annoyed me, Raheem Sterling. I mean, we're going to talk about him over with our wildcard teams in a kind of another video in terms of fantasy Premier League away from FanTeam, but that man is really, really getting on my nerves. I chose Sterling over Gundogan, and if I'd had him this game week, I probably would have captained him, and well, I could have been walking away with the big prize, let's say that. So maybe I should write to Raheem and be like, can you reimburse me the money? But onwards and upwards. That's where we're going, aren't we, Ben? Because that's the wonderful thing about FanTeam, and that's what you like about it as well. It's kind of a reset. You don't hold your grudges too much.
Yeah, well, I try. I try my best. But as we all know, Jason, the proof in the pudding is not just a one-off cash win. We need you to come out fighting, all guns blazing, and we need you to back that up with another big cash prize finish this week. Tricky set of fixtures. I must admit, I've already had a look. And if you want my thoughts on this team heading into game week 25, you can check out my official FanTeam YouTube video, which was posted yesterday. Yeah, and there's a couple of derbies thrown in there where the phone book tends to get ripped out and thrown out the window. And FanTeam, they've made it a little bit easier for me, I believe, this week. And that first game, that Leeds and Wolverhampton Wanderers game has not been included. So that avoids a little bit of a headache there. So we only have the 8 fixtures to focus on. But look, without any further ado, Jason, the floor is yours, my friend. I'd like you to take it away.
Yeah, so I'm going with a double triple at the back. First of all, I'm going with Burnley. And we've kind of discussed with Wax Lyrical before about that back line. And yes, obviously there is that worry that they're playing West Brom, who seem to be in a slightly better vein of form. But then I looked at their underlying numbers, and going forward, the Baggies have been in the bottom 4, the bottom 6, just near the bottom of the table with their attacking numbers. That they haven't really turned things around. And arguably, I would say Burnley definitely have a better keeper than Manchester United at the moment. I'd say Pope, performance-wise, is leagues ahead above De Gea. And so that gives me comfort. Then we know how well organised the Clarets are in terms of defending those situations. They are at Turf Moor as well. Sean Dyche, even though he's not playing to a home crowd, will not want to let down the home supporters in many senses. So this one, I feel, is not as risky as the kind of form presents it. I don't feel that there's a real big turnaround at West Brom. And so I've gone with Pope between the sticks. Loughton, who did me very well last week with a goal. Realistically, I don't think he'll get another goal this week. And I've got Tarkow just because, obviously, Ben Mee, not sure if he'll be back in the side with the concussion protocol and everything. So I'm liking it. There is this ability as well. I think some of the attacking assets of Burnley have done well. That's why I put in Barnes last week. And I said that Crystal Palace kind of struggled with set pieces, and a couple of those goals were scored from set pieces. Unfortunately, I didn't have the right kind of set piece players to capitalise upon that. So Tarkowski, or I think it was me, was in my backline last week in terms of FanTeam, and so they didn't score. And Loughton did, obviously, but I didn't capitalise fully on the set-piece situation. But I'm thinking this week Tarkowski might do that against West Brom, who just aren't very good at much, are they, Ben? I mean, you're looking there a little bit nervous, quaking at the thought of a treble up, and I think the next one might vex you even more. So what are your thoughts on this Burnley treble up?
It's clear to me, Jason, that you didn't watch, or you haven't watched my video for the on the official FanTeam video just yet. I've been sweet, and I do like Burnley, and I do agree to all of those sentiments ordinarily. However, the caveat, and this is just my opinion, I think we're just looking at a Burnley side that's looking a little bit jaded, certainly fatigued, carrying a lot of injuries. Picked up another two problems midweek in Bergud Munson and Robbie Brady. Both will probably miss out again on Saturday. My concerns as well were also at left back. Eric Peters, the famous Sean Dyche touch and go, likely to miss out as well. My concern would be, after such a long time, Charlie Taylor starting in that left back and being asked to start two games in quick succession. Ben Mee, he will come back in. Concussion protocol is 6 days clear, so there's absolutely no issues on that, and that will be back to bolster that. But I just think generally the squad is stretched, is just looking a little bit, it could be a bridge too far. And the reason I suppose that I went against Burnley backline is because I went for the Baggies' main threat in attack in Diagna, if I pronounced that right, or I've absolutely butchered his name. And I've actually had him since he first came in. I think he's played maybe four games at least. I think he's had 2 assists. He hit the post twice. He's had a goal disallowed, and then he scored against Manchester United. And he looks a real threat to him. And maybe if the data doesn't necessarily support West Brom, for me, Sam Allardyce will be targeting this game for 3 points. I don't think it's a game that they can afford to even draw, never mind lose. And he'll be looking for high intensity, high press. And I think if anybody's going to get a goal for the Baggies, then it'll be that man there. Hopefully with Snodgrass supplying the bullets. And we also see maybe the introduction of their on loan Turkish midfielder who come in to that holding role last week. I think the amount of turnovers and tackles on his debut was more than any other West Brom player who's produced this season already. So that's good signs. And if you can start maybe shoring up that defence and keeping things a little bit tighter, then you've always got a chance.
This is the thing, it is Sam Allardyce. We know he's the master at avoiding relegations and saving teams. But just for me, I feel like it's a false dawn with the Baggies, and it's kind of like Aston Villa, keeping the clean sheet against Brighton last weekend. 88% chance that wouldn't have been a clean sheet game for Martinez and Aston Villa. And I feel like teams like this, especially with their quality, it's not a City or previously not a Liverpool where they can kind of overperform and it's without question that they have that quality. I feel like they're riding their luck. But then kind of backing up your point of view here, West Brom were not overplayed by Manchester United. They had great spells throughout their match. So there is that aching worry there, but I feel confident in Burnley. And we will come on to the end of our head v head discussion of Crystal Palace versus Burnley. But I'm going to move it on to the other treble of that double treble. Very exciting. But I think you might be more critical on this one because you won't have seen our Tactic Thursday video yet. But Tristan and I went through this very controversial topic of why Brighton are a lot better than people think they are, and possibly one of the best defences in the league at the moment. So it won't be out this week. It'll be out next Thursday for people to tune in to Tactic Thursday. But basically, Tristan and I went through all the data, and I'm kind of excited to put my research into place, looking at the underlying numbers of Brighton. And you and I have discussed this before, Ben, previously, where consistently they're putting good numbers. And something changed at Brighton. And this change, I feel, is actually the thing that we needed to change. You and I both said it was a personnel issue, that there was just something not clicking. And it was the introduction of goalkeeper Sanchez. And he has been fantastic. Matt Ryan had a minus 4.5 goals prevented this season in terms of XG. So he's let in 4.5 goals more than he should have. Whereas since Sanchez has come in, he's had 0.3 goals saved in terms of XG. So he's doing really well in terms of set pieces. He's doing a lot better than Matt Ryan, who gave up quite a few goals in those places where Brighton are actually really good. So I look at this and there's the potential for the clean sheet, but there's also the potential for involvement in goals, especially from set pieces. And that also comes from the data of Pascal Gross, who is the fourth best creator in terms of minutes per chance created, only behind Fernandes, Grealish and Kevin De Bruyne this season. I mean, that's pretty astonishing stuff. So if you've got somebody good taking the set pieces, you've got the likes of Burn, Dunk, White getting onto the end of them. That could be an opportunity there. And they're playing Crystal Palace, who I said last week are really bad at defending set pieces. Well, this is a Brighton side that basically specialise in those situations. I seriously considered getting Gross as a midfielder, but I've gone with Dunk, White and Burn for the time being. So I'm ready for the criticism. I'm also ready for calling me out because I've let you down once again. We were critical before together, a bit like Bamford earlier on in the season. Have I abandoned you once again, Ben?
Well, I went for Lewis Dunk, as it happens.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I don't feel as guilty.
I'm already, I'm buying in to the Brighton back line. First and foremost, I like a little bit of involvement on the last game, still having that hope. And obviously Brighton don't play until Monday evening. So that was one. But Dunk, I don't think there's any questioning what he brings defensively to the team. But offensively, potential of attacking returns, set pieces, free kicks, corners. And look, I have had one or two words to say against the Seagulls this season. But they tend not to give away too much. They're almost, for me, a little bit like the Sheffield United team of last season. They're capable of nicking games, but also losing either very tight affairs, 2-1s, 1-0s. They've been in a decent run. Very unlucky not to get 3 points against Aston Villa. They drew with Burnley, and that was off the back of two great results, Tottenham and Liverpool. So there's a lot to like, certainly at that price point. And yeah, look, I've always been a big fan as well of Pascal Gross on penalties, on occasions. I'm just surprised that he doesn't. I'm not a big fan of managers, and maybe this is where the fantasy head comes into play, where it changes your whole perspective and understanding and your view of the game. There's just a little bit too much change in there for me from Graham Potter. Hopefully now that the fixtures are a little bit more, spread out and there's a greater rest periods between matches, then we will see a lot more settled team, because Pascal Gross is a great player, and I think he deserves more minutes. I mean, if you look at that outfield, lineup for Brighton. I think Gross is only maybe 6th or 7th, possibly even 8th overall minutes in terms of how much he's played. So I would like to see that increased significantly. But for this, for these one-off round formats and FanTeam, Brighton assets are a great pick because, like I say, you can dip in and out around those fixtures, and you pretty much know which team Graham Potter's going to pick. When his players have been fully rested and recovered.
The wonderful thing as well about the FanTeam format, and this is why I went with the defensive treble up rather than kind of playing around with Gross. Will he, won't he start? Although he has started every game and played the full 90 since game week 19, so that allays concerns a little bit. But I've gone with Dunk, White, Burn, and the wonderful thing about the FanTeam setup means that if one of them doesn't start, it will bring in the next defender basically in terms of price. So I've gone with the most expensive ones so that I'm fully covered. There's no chance that I'm kind of left in the lurch without a player basically and missing out totally. Now,
yeah, I mean, just you may or may not be aware, and it's fairly late team news anyway. The only major threats to anybody in that back line maybe would have been Webster coming in for Burn. It looks highly likely that he's going to miss out with an ankle ligament problem, hasn't recovered as hoped. And the other one would have been maybe Tariq Lamptey, but that was more for probably Joe Veltman. And he's still recovering from a hamstring strain. So with regards to players who Graham Potter would slot back into that back line, it doesn't look like either of those players will be available this weekend anyway.
That's good for people building their teams, especially in FPL as well, because in terms of that longer term game frame, that means that, in the long term, their positions might be under threat. But this is for 1 week. And for this 1 week, I'm putting my trust in the midfield into Ademola Lookman. I've gone with the Fulham midfielder. He's playing arguably the worst defence in the league with Sheffield United. But also, looking at the data, over the last 4 game weeks, Fulham have actually been 4th for XG. And a man with the most XGI during that time is Lookman himself. I looked at some of the other players, Bobby Reid, some of those that are kind of making the headlines because they were involved with the goals. But Lookman is bubbling there under the surface. He himself has also contributed. But he is the important cog to the Cottagers' attacking ability. And so, as I said, they're playing one of the worst defences in the league. I don't think you can really go wrong with that selection. He's 9.4, which is fairly priced. He's kind of in that mid-range where it makes you think. And that's what I like about it. It makes you consider. He was on my shortlist. Then I looked at the price and I was like, ooh, is he worth that much? But I went in and I've got Lookman in my side. What are you feeling about that choice there, Ben?
Yeah, like Fulham this week, like in Fulham in the last few game weeks. I didn't go Lookman. I went a little bit higher up the pitch. Maya, however you want to. Again, I really need to do better on my pronunciation. At 9.5, obviously got a couple of goals last weekend, and I picked this team ahead of the draw with Burnley midweek. But exactly the same as yourself. Sound data there. I think they're worth a punt. And for me, the Sheffield United game against West Ham on the evening, that was a tipping point for me. I've always felt, despite how the league table looked, that Sheffield United still had a chance. They're always in there if they could just maybe get a goal scorer, somebody to hit that bit of form. But I think Monday night, that was almost the straw that broke the camel's back. And the issue to me with West Ham missing Mikel Antonio, that was an opportunity to go out there and get a decent result at the London Stadium, and they fell down, they fell flat badly. And they may not come out and say it, but internally, I think there'll be some doubts, and I fully expect Fulham to capitalise on that. Sheffield United, they've lost John Egan. He's been pivotal for them this week, so we'll have Phil Jagielka coming into that back line as well. So there's yet more change. And yeah, look, I like Fulham. I think they're a good pick this week.
I think we always talk about you being differential Dinnery. You can also say that you're differential with your pronunciations. That's kind of like a positive aspect to what.
I'm honestly embarrassing. I need to just go through the pronunciation book and find out what the hell I'm doing here. I mean, I can just write it off as it's a Geordie accent, man. You're not entitled to it.
Yeah.
I see it reads.
You said it right all along. It's people judging you for your accent. It's not you at all, Ben. But one of the people that I'm moving the attention to as well is Mr. Barnes, and he's playing in Aston Villa defence here. Now, I looked at the data and I was quite shocked. Villa are actually one of the worst defences at the moment. The interesting thing for me is they're basically being kept afloat by the brilliance of Martinez. And I think that they're playing against a side that can actually put their chances away, which Brighton haven't historically been able to. Vardy is absolute class. Barnes is quite good. Maddison feeding those two. Hopefully it'll be a masterclass. I'm looking at Ben here. He's rubbing his... But over the last 4 game weeks, Aston Villa have conceded the second most shots on the box, the most goal attempts in total, and 8 big chances. They have the 4th worst goals against in terms of expected goals. Very worrying stuff. And also what's interesting are Aston Villa are actually the bottom of many attacking metrics as well. So I'm hoping that Leicester can capitalise on their poor form. And in that sense, maybe if you're looking at defensive assets, maybe a Leicester one as well. But I've gone with Barnes because he's slightly cheaper than Maddison. He fits into the team, but he still has that better underlying data. And it's kind of a good fun fight each game week because you kind of back Maddison every game week. I back Barnes every game week, and it's really fun head to head. One game week Barnes is doing better, one game week Maddison's doing better. But what that suggests to me is they're both good picks. They're probably both equal in value, and I think this is a really kind of big game that people might overlook because obviously Aston Villa have been fantastic this season, no discounting that, but the data suggesting that they're actually going through a poor run. Martinez has been brilliant in kind of staving off that real kind of what could have been embarrassing results over the last few. But Leicester are really good at finishing. So you've had a cheeky smile whilst I've been talking there, Ben. What are you going to come in and say and upset the apple cart?
I'm just playing devil advocate here. I'm just offering a different opinion and a different level of insight, and certainly not disagreeing with anything that you say because it is steeped in solid statistical analysis and the data there to support everything you say. However, I would say I'm more punty, a little bit more of a risk taker, and I maybe gamble on different scenarios in and around a particular game. So I've went against Leicester first and foremost. And here's the rationale behind the decision. I totally agree that Aston Villa have been very lucky of late. However, they've had a full week to return to the training pitches. They've had this very hectic period returning from their COVID shutdown. Dean Smith's had them back on the training pitches, allow them to maybe just, get rid of that fatigue, work on a few bits of tactics, and really focus on the game, which maybe they haven't had the opportunity to do so in previous game week. Secondly, this will be billed, in my opinion, as the Jack Grealish and the James Maddison show. It's pushing for that place at Euro 2021, and they're both out to impress Gareth Southgate. And I'm expecting big performances from both of those players. What tips the scales just in favour of Villa for me is the external factor that Leicester will be involved in Europa League duty on Thursday night. They're obviously travelling again, and I would expect Brendan Rodgers, because they're at the knockout phase of the competition, to go fairly strong. We know that they're carrying injuries already. and he's limited into how much he can actually rotate that team. And I just think, playing late on a Thursday and then a quick turnaround for the Sunday, Aston Villa would just have that little bit of extra zip and energy about their performance. And I think that will maybe carry them to 3 points. But that's just my opinion, Jason.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is sounding like another recipe for a head-to-head. So maybe when we get to the end of the show, that can be our discussion point. I'm going to back Leicester, you're backing Villa. Maybe we should even go down to who's going to outscore each other in terms of players. Maybe Barnes versus Grealish, because obviously I'm backing Barnes. But moving it on to somebody who I don't even think we really need to explain why I've got him in the side. I've got Bruno Fernandes. Oh,
that was good. Even I've captained Bruno. I think his captaincy ownership will be about 100%.
Yeah.
I'd be very surprised if it wasn't.
Every dog and their mother is captaining Fernandes this week. He's just got a good game, and we don't really need to discuss that because it's so damn good. So let's move it on to the front line. I've gone with 2 up top. My usual, I think it's becoming a pattern now. I do like building out the defence with 5 at the back. So that does mean only 2 up front with that 3 in midfield. And first of all, I'm going with Jamie Vardy for the same reasons that I've got Barnes in. And again...
I went Ollie Watkins.
Did you?
The same reasons.
This is the funny thing. We don't actually chat about this. We totally do this off the cuff in terms of discussions, and you can kind of see this. We don't discuss it because we like to go in almost raw into what our discussions are about with these teams. So yeah, Vardy. The thing is, I don't like owning Vardy in fantasy situations, but I think Watkins is very similar, but almost in an opposite entity. Vardy doesn't do much. Watkins does a lot, but he doesn't put them away. Vardy doesn't do much, and he puts a lot away. It's a very difficult own, either of those players. So I've gone with Jamie Vardy, as I said there, for the same reasons as Barnes. And I think hopefully he doesn't play the full 90. Hopefully he doesn't get injured. Again, with all these discussions here, we're obviously recording before the Europa League fixtures have finished. So there is a chance that some of these players could get injured and then squads will change. But at the moment, Vardy is looking a good pick in my eyes. So just throwing it to you, Ben, is it literally just the fact that it's Aston Villa, you're going with your gut and Watkins, or was any of his data kind of bubbling under the surface appealing to you as well?
It's a good shot draw, Jason, and the main swing was that Europa League fixture. We're making a judgment call ahead of kickoff, and by no means are these decisions set in stone. They just offer a rationale into the thought process behind those picks. And yeah, look, I'm gambling on Villa. If you never want to, me. I'm not a sheep. I'm not a follower. I like to just go out there and try my own thing, and hopefully, picking up a few differentials, low ownership, and maybe just offering a different perspective and a different level of insight, as to why maybe these players should be on other managers' radar.
So moving it to the final one of this game week, the exciting final piece to the jigsaw, and hopefully he does better than the final piece to my jigsaw last week, which was Marcus Rashford. In terms of it, Marcus Rashford only got me 3 points. Almost everybody else kind of did do something apart from Grealish as well. So looking at it though, I'm hoping Antonio has a fantastic game week, because Tottenham were humiliated by Manchester City and are still continuing this floundering. We'll see how they do in the Europa League tonight, but the Spurs data is not great. It's pretty bad. In fact, looking over the last 8 game weeks since game week 17, Tottenham are in the bottom half of the table for XG conceded. They're allowing a lot of big chances. They're allowing just too many attempts in the box against them. They're actually in the bottom 6 of the table there for shots in the box conceded. Very worrying stuff. So this also makes for good reading for an Antonio, who is one of the top people again over the last 8 game weeks in terms of XGI. He's only behind the likes of Salah, Sterling, Bruno Fernandes and Gundogan. And in looking at the team data as well, West Ham are on a great run of form. They've got the 3rd best XG of any team over the last 8 game weeks. Lots of shots inside the box, good chances created. But what is interesting to me is they might not be creating a huge amount of chances, but what they are creating are big chances. So kind of like almost the ratio of chances to big chances created. They're producing high quality, so they don't need to produce large amounts, and they're still having the 3rd best XG, one of the highest big chances created, and lots of shots inside the box. This is really encouraging for me. The only thing is will Antonio be fit? So the question to you, Ben, is it a risk me putting Antonio in just for fitness reasons? Because I think the data is there that once again Tottenham might be humiliated.
Yeah, look, this is one of those situations where we understand injury return to players. Very rarely are they just simply black and white. There are other external factors influencing these decisions with regards to whether Antonio will start or even be a part of the squad. A lot of members of the community were expecting Antonio to feature on Monday night against West Ham. The club, quite sneakily, you may think, that posted out some pictures of Antonio back out on the training pitches. We already knew that of sorts, and you have to be very careful when you're looking at these types of images, because it's a snapshot at a particular point in time. It doesn't show whether he's involved in group training. It doesn't actually show you what he's doing inherently at all. So you take it with a pinch of salt. And he was sort of omitted from the matchday squad altogether by David Moyes. He said, look, we don't want to take a risk. We all know that the recurrence re-injury percentages of hamstring injuries are the highest within that 30-day period. Now, West Ham went out there and done a really professional, good job on Sheffield United. And yes, Antonio is pivotal to that West Ham team. However, the pressures that David Moyes are under are different now, off the back of a 3-0 win, where Jared Bowen played that centre role, played well, in with Lanzini and Jess Lingard in behind. They looked fluid, it looked good, it was a solid performance. So the pressures aren't there for David Moyes to, throw Mikel Antonio back in to that starting 11. Why take the risk? So it's my own opinion that we may not see Mikel Antonio in that starting 11 again for West Ham. It could be that we're looking at an integrated return. We'll maybe introduce him from the bench 15, 20 minutes to get him back up to playing again. But, again, that may be just dependent on how West Ham are playing in that match. And if they're cruising through or they're playing really well, again, you may just feel that, well, actually, Antonio will benefit from another, 7 to 10 days on the training pitches before we go back out there and play him again. So for me, it is just a little bit of a risk, certainly involving him from the start.
The thing is about FanTeam, and we say it every week, the good thing is I might keep Antonio in this team, and then in another team I might put maybe Bowen, Souček, somebody like that. But I've also thought of a striker as a replacement, and I thought of maybe Neil Maupay. He's playing again against a Crystal Palace side who are very poor at the moment. He is on the penalty taking duties as well, and so Brighton are in good form, and he could be a suitable replacement at the back, at the front there, and possibly look elsewhere for, because I've gone up with the double treble, but look elsewhere. But I just like this game for West Ham. They are at home, and kind of historically they've not done great against Spurs, but I don't really count history too much when I do this. I look at the context of the now data. How are they playing at the moment? They could have lost, 18-0 last year at Spurs. It wouldn't really affect my thinking too much because that was last year. This is now, and the team could have been totally changed. And that is the kind of situation with West Ham. They're much more settled. They're much more in their groove. And frankly, they're one of the best teams in the league at the moment. They're shocking a lot of people with their consistency and quality. So if I do get that squeaky bum feeling as Alex Ferguson would describe, then I may just put in a Souček because I can do that with this wonderful kind of FanTeam setup. I won't be punished or kicked out by making another team to capitalise on the situation. But I've covered all that I need to in terms of my FanTeam, and I'm really excited for, I would say, a difficult fixtures this weekend. It has been hard picking teams because there's no real big standout fixtures, but I think that also gives the opportunity for listening in and finding out these little nuggets of information and capitalising upon what isn't a clear situation there. So anything else that you want to add, Ben, before we wrap up?
No, just look at your team. I see we might disagree on several fronts. But for anybody listening, yours are sound, steeped in the data. The statistics back it up. I'm just offering a slightly different opinion and a different angle for those considering. But look, you finished in the money last week. We mentioned our head-to-head. This will be our third head-to-head. Going forward. I haven't fared very well in those first two. I think we went Salah and Sterling the first, and Sterling outscored May Salah. I was dead set against the Burnley backline in game week 24. And you weren't. I thought maybe Palace would maybe nick a one. How wrong could I be? So I am due a win. I need something to get myself back into it. I am more than happy to stick my Aston Villa against your Leicester City. And if you want to go players wise, my Jack Grealish against your Harvey Barnes. Look, I will take that and hopefully get my first point on the board this season.
Well, I'll let you decide then. Do you want to do teams or players? Which are you feeling most confident in there, Ben?
Look, Big Jack to produce. Gareth Southgate will be watching. He'll be following very closely. And I think it's an opportunity for Jack to deliver and really, put a marker in the sand against James Maddison and Harvey Barnes.
Well, I'll be hoping that Jack does Jack all and leaves you maybe a bit jacked off. But in terms of it, Barnes is my big hitter for this week in the head-to-head. So make sure to tune in to next week's show to see who has the bragging rights. But for now, as always, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned in because we've got lots of great content here. But I wish you luck as well. We always wish the people luck, but maybe not enough luck so that we don't win and get in the money again.
Look, Jason, there's plenty to go around. Listen, guys, thanks again. It's been an absolutely fantastic podcast, Jason. Good luck. Hopefully one of these weeks we'll come home with a bacon, the real, a big cash prize in that top 5. That will do us. But for now, it's a bye from me.